Hello and welcome there to this episode of the Cliff Notes podcast, where we ask a leader and find their way. We're here today to cover the intersection of manufacture and digital technology and the journeys of the people out in the field. Our guest today is president of 10 in 6 in Ontario, Canada, and for the last 11 years they've assisted in prioritizing manufacturing businesses' activities and improving both the quality and efficiency of production and operations. So welcome today, Dennis Cocco. How are you doing?
Well, thank you very much. Firstly, thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm doing quite well. Obviously, we're in some very interesting times these days, and so is the manufacturing sector. And so we're seeing some interesting challenges more recently than we normally see. But given that, 10 and 6 is doing quite well, because I think what we're seeing in the industry right now is a renewed or continued interest in trying to be more efficient and trying to be more productive in relatively speaking, given all the challenges that they're faced with around the world.
Indeed, I've been seeing that too with partners, that there's very much a focus on trying to keep agile and lean and be able to just take the position, take the market as it comes and be able to react to it. Rather than expecting it to be as stable as it might have been in the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when companies are challenged, the strong companies react in a positive way, and the rest, unfortunately, tend to cower and maybe not stay in business. So this is a definite test we're seeing for most companies right now.
And I mean, how did you find your way into this sort of this sector in the space?
Well, it's interesting because I've been involved in this space for 30 years, and the evolution in my background was I started by building automation systems and setting up new automation lines for manufacturing customers. And getting into that, our customers were asking all kinds of questions about how to improve the efficiency and be more productive on this new piece of automation that they purchased. So I founded another company called Active Plant Corporation 20-something years ago. And it was focused on trying to develop methods and techniques and technology around measuring the efficiency and productivity of a manufacturing operation. It was quite successful, but the problem we had was we built a technology that was very expensive and probably very difficult to deploy in retrospect. So we were relegated to really working with large enterprise companies, and we did well, but we narrowed our market down to a very select few companies worldwide. So 12 years ago, I had an opportunity to start a company called 10 and 6, and it was taking those complex ideas, and I will say we simplified it and lowered the cost of deployment. So now we can target a small to medium-sized manufacturing operation and get to value quicker and obviously save our customers a lot of money. So this evolution is 30 years in the making, and I have to admit that there were a lot of lessons learned over those 30 years and a lot of mistakes made. But we feel now we kind of zeroed in on that secret sauce of being able to provide a very intuitive and simple solution, but yet a powerful solution, and one that's not very costly.
Sponsorship of this podcast has been brought to you by Holding Bay, the digital web agency. Holding Bay specialises in working with B2B companies like manufacturers to build better solutions and drive better sales funnels. So if you would like to build a web application or improve your branding and sales funnel, get in contact today. holdingbay.co.uk or call us on 01273 044 019.
I was just going to say it's interesting because you see all kinds of technologies that come and go over the years. This is it seems like every 6 months there's a new technology out there. But the bottom line is, for manufacturing, they tend to gravitate towards something that's proven, simple, trusted, that can be relied on. So sometimes it's incongruent with the idea of using the latest and greatest technology. Sometimes they feel more comfortable with using something that's maybe a little bit older, but works and is successful, and that they hear through word of mouth from other manufacturers that they've had success with. So, this part of those lessons learned is that sometimes just having the best technology isn't the right way to go. It's that combination of a good technology, but a really good solution that is simple to deploy, and that's important in manufacturing.
And what is it? What is the product that 10 and 6 make?
Okay, so we're in the software business, and our software focuses on helping our customers by collecting information directly from the automation layer. We collect information about the productivity and quality of the products that they're making. And so while most manufacturing plants are very chaotic and it seems like every day there's a different fire to be fought, we're silently in the background collecting information about all the waste and inefficiency across all their processes, identifying where constraints are, determining where there's excessive downtime, understanding where people are not completing all their quality checks, or maybe not necessarily there's too many calls for maintenance or team leaders or quality technicians in certain areas. So we're silently gathering all this information and then presenting it back to the manufacturing group as in terms of information on where they can identify great opportunities for improvement. And so that improvement comes from being more efficient with the time and resources spent on the line, or from minimizing scrap and rework because of quality issues. So those are the two main drivers. And the third driver is around the operations, making sure that you're running the right product to ship on time versus being happy in one area, building the wrong product and missing a delivery to an important customer. So those three areas around productivity, quality, and improved operations is what our software focuses on.
And so, what are you talking about here? Are you talking about sort of 5S's type of framework, or is it other particular wastes and efficiencies you're looking at?
Yes, 5S is part of it, but there's any types of inefficiencies. So, for example, excessive downtime due to equipment problems, process issues, running out of the parts that you need, not maintaining your equipment correctly. There's a number of different factors that cause chaos in a manufacturing facility. And by having a collection of data, we're able to present to the customer very succinctly the top issues, the top wastes across a number of different categories, that if you tackle even just the first one or two, you're going to see an improvement. And that's kind of leads us to the...
No, what does that lead you to?
That leads us to the name of the company. We call ourselves 10 and 6, and it stands for 10% productivity improvement in 6 months. And we stand by that as a challenge, not to ourselves, but also to our customers, that we should be able to deliver those kinds of improvements, 10% improvement in 6 months. And that's simply by driving that awareness to where those losses are in such a manner that it's simple to act on. That's our job. Our job is to take a ton of data collected 24/7 and boil that down into 5 or 6 easy steps for a customer to make changes so they can see a productivity improvement.
And so that's 10% sort of across a range of metrics, or is that then focused in on a more refined set?
When we sit down with a customer, we typically identify which category of improvement they're focused on. So if it's around productivity, it's a 10% improvement in the OEE metric, overall equipment efficiency. If the customer is trying to focus on quality aspects of the software, then we're looking at a 10% reduction in scrap and rework. But that's kind of a contract that we would set up with the customer at the beginning based on their goals and what they're trying to achieve with our software.
Now, I'm familiar with working with OEE. And do you then work with a sort of a range of different machinery, or you're working with data that people are already collecting?
So one of the nuances of our product and one of the challenges in our industry and one of the most costly parts of a system like this is the connectivity to the shop floor. And so in those best practices and lessons learned, we've determined ways to collect information from almost any type of equipment or any type of process in a very simple manner. And in addition to that, in cases where there is no automation and there's purely manual processes, we have tools to help you collect your data manually. And so we can fit in virtually any manufacturing environment. Our customers are primarily in the automotive sector, in food and beverage, consumer packaged goods, and general manufacturing. So we do span quite a number of different industries, all having the same problem. Everybody's trying to squeeze out as much productivity out of the resources that they've paid for in their facilities. Those resources could be an investment in automation. They could be time spent in terms of labor hours. There's all kinds of resources, materials. You don't want to be wasting your raw materials through scrap and rework. So all those resources have to be looked at and consumed in the most diligent manner possible.
This sounds like an interesting process. And do you find that companies are new to this efficiency, or they're looking to take it further, that they've already been looking themselves?
I can't say anybody is new to this. I mean, lean practices and similar concepts have been around for as long as I remember. But I think what companies are looking for is a simpler way to get the results, because most have learned that lean is not easy. It takes a diligence across the entire facility, a lot of hard work. It's kind of like expecting to lose weight without going to the gym or without dieting. If you put the work in, you're going to get the results out. And I think what 10 and 6 does, and what our customers are looking for, is there a better way to conserve the amount of energy I put into my lean practices so I get more out of them and be less wasteful, even in my own lean practices?
Oh, that's good.
And so a good example of that is collecting information manually. If you spend 10 hours a week collecting information manually and then 1 hour a week looking at it, what we'd like you to do is spend 1 hour a week focused on collecting the information and 10 hours focused on improving.
Yeah.
So that's an example of trying to be lean with your own lean practices.
And I mean, is that some area that you said you've helped improve? Is a lot of people still have paper-based systems on the shop floor, and you can help them improve that too?
Yeah, so I'll give you a really good example. So we have a customer that's been using our productivity tools to measure OEE and efficiency and downtime for several years. And then recently they looked at their quality systems and realized that, and they were not that atypical. They were collecting through paper check sheets. They would have check sheets scattered around the entire facility and required operators to do hourly checks and write them down on a piece of paper. And those hourly checks would be put in a binder at the end of the shift, and then at some point that binder would be put in a filing cabinet and never to be looked at again. So we worked with them to switch their entire system to what we call paperless quality. So now they have an electronic entry of that data, and built into that are work instructions on how to complete the checks and how to determine if a part is good or bad, and how to change those specifications based on what product you're running. So they have a much more robust paperless quality system. But the best part is it has auditing capabilities built in. So if you miss one of your hourly checks, people will know. If your check results in an out-of-spec condition, people will know. And now you can start setting up alerts to say this part of the process is trending in a negative manner in terms of quality. And so we're giving our customers a way of using that data as opposed to just writing it down and putting it in a binder and forgetting about it.
No, that sounds great. I was on a call today, thinking of paperless, and they were mentioning that their machine shop, they felt fortunate with this sort of COVID crisis had moved a lot of the office staff out of the building, and they were having to keep more distance with people. That they were pleased they'd moved away from their paper system that it used to take someone twice a day would come around and collect the papers and file them into the system. But with social distancing and things, with the lockdown, it made it impractical. That they were glad that they had shifted this over to just a data entry system that allowed them to monitor this afterwards. So yeah, I totally can see the benefit of being able to use that data later.
My favorite story along those lines is that I'd be touring, and this happened more than once, but I'd be touring a facility and I'd be looking at the paper check sheets, and you just take a look quickly at one workstation and notice that it's 9 o'clock in the morning, but they've already completed their hourly checks for the rest of the shift. So you're starting to realize that these employees are smart enough to know that by the end of the shift, they have to complete their 8 checks once an hour. And some of them just make the data up so that that task is done, it's over with, and they don't have to worry about any more paperwork for the rest of the shift. So unless they can predict what's going to happen in the future, I don't know how they can complete those hourly checks at 9 o'clock in the morning. For the rest of their shifts. So, and that's not uncommon. You either see data being created or made up because it's a purely paper-driven system. They know nobody looks at it. Nobody ever follows up on it. So there are obviously a lot of inefficiencies that come with a paper quality system.
And I mean, just to keep going on this sort of topic of moving into a digital system, I think you were speaking to me earlier that you'd moved away from a much more complicated and a more expensive system. I mean, how's this system sort of simpler and sort of easier to get on with using?
Okay, a couple of things that we've done on this go around that make it simpler. First of all, the way we collect our data. We have been able to model any manufacturing operation and boil it down to simple, basic field signals. Like when a part is completed, we just need a signal to say that. When a part is rejected, we need a simple signal to tell us that. And by simplifying the signal set, we can basically model any manufacturing operation. So it becomes a true out-of-the-box deployment for us. But the bigger improvement we did in terms of simplifying complexity is that most of our competitors build their solutions in the web, and that's a great idea. But for doing analytics, especially in manufacturing, our customer base loves Excel, and they love the tools that are available in Excel. And so even with this complicated, expensive system we developed in the past, our customers still wanted to export the data to Excel and do further analytics. And one unique thing we did with 10 and 6 is that we took Excel and we gave you the web experience inside Excel. So it's a kind of a twist in terms of how you would normally use Excel. Instead of using Google Chrome as a browser, you actually use Excel as a browser. And now when you get your data, you have all the robustness of those Excel tools that you're familiar with at your disposal. And as well, the familiarity of it means that for most of our customers, there's no learning curve on how to use a system like this. So that helped us minimize our deployment costs. It helped us minimize our development costs. And so we can pass those cost savings on to our customers.
No, that sounds like a very practical way of keeping the complexity and the fluidity in the back end, and it just keeps much more practical for the use of that data and the refinement of valuing the analytics.
Yes, someone always told me our customers are not buying the technology; they're buying an answer. They want an answer to their problem, and so we have to keep that in mind. So.
I don't want a half-inch drill bit. I want a half-inch hole, I think is the classic one I get from some people.
Yes.
Where are businesses going with this? What can they improve or can they learn? You mentioned sort of 6 months. I mean, is this the sort of thing that you'd engage with yourselves for a sort of 6 months process, or Is that just sort of the start, and it's more of an ongoing tool that can help businesses?
Well, certainly it doesn't take us 6 months to get up and running. So we're typically up and running in 6 weeks or so with all the training and getting them to use the system effectively. The 6 months is where they will be using this tool, not just for 6 months. They'll be using this for 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. Some of our early customers are still using the tool every day as a way of driving their operations, and that's 10 or 11 years later, because it becomes almost the Bible on what's happening in your plant. It's the single source of truth for our customers. They know exactly what's happening, and they're moving away from gut feel and instinct and anecdotal discussion about what's happening to a true, accurate picture of what's really happening. And so our customers can expect to continue to see and use the tool and add new functionality. And plants evolve day in and day out, month in, month out, year in, year out. There's constant change in manufacturing plants. So they're always maintaining the system to add new areas or add new functionality as things evolve.
Yeah, no, I can see that it's. I mean, and OE metrics they're not an auditing tool or a one and done. They're a momentum, and you're going to get a different momentum when you change machinery, when you change staff, when you change parts. You're going to get a different momentum, and then you can look for those efficiencies again.
Yes, correct. Certainly, a new automation line is going to be less efficient, but over a year or 2 or 3, it starts to dial in and become more efficient. But other parts of the plant are less efficient because they're newer. So,
I mean, and where do you see this technology or the sort of field that you're working with going in the next sort of 5-10 years? I mean, is this just a sort of ongoing part, or do you feel that there's a sort of space for change as well?
I think, first of all, there's not enough customers, not enough manufacturing companies that are using these types of electronic tools. There is still too much of a manual recording and whiteboarding concept out there. And I think over the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to see an awareness that these tools exist and that these tools make their lives easier and that these tools help them focus on improvement and not data capture. So you're going to see that transition in the next 5 to 10 years, where I'll say that we're going to tip over to the side of the majority will have this type of system, where right now it's the minority still. And then I think the earlier adopters are going to start using their data with more an eye towards predictive analysis to understand, can I predict where a problem might happen before it happens? And so these are going to be your leading edge, early adopter type companies that are going to be going to the next level. And you'll see that happening over this 5 to 10 year window. I think analytics is going to become, analytics are not possible until you have a baseline of good, rich data. And I think until you get your baseline of data, the analytics are not going to help you. So the next evolution will be to take that good, rich, contextualized data and now do the higher advanced analytics. And that's where, as a company, we're going as well.
And just our little fun questions we like to answer at the end. If I was going to box you in a corner with all these sort of question analysis, what 2 things might you grab to come out swinging and come out on top?
Well, I think I'm going to put myself into a plant manager's role. So if I was a plant manager for a manufacturing facility and you could only give me 2 tools to help me be successful, I think the first tool I would ask for is some way to give my operators, my employees on the shop floor, more of a voice on how to express their problems. And the second tool that I would want to have is to have the processes in place to be able to respond to those issues in a timely manner. So, a lot of people look at OEE tools as a way of measuring, and they think the plant manager is going to somehow beat them up if they don't do their job. The plant manager is too busy for that, and we don't want that type of high-level monitoring. What we want is the tools to enable the guys on the shop floor to control their own destiny, to improve their own operations, make their day a lot better, and get to their own targeted goals. If you can achieve that, that's closer to what true lean principles are about. And empowering the employee and giving them the tools to be successful, to me, is what I would be focused on if I was a plant manager.
The people on the floor are the crafts people with the skill in their hands, and if they can make their day better, faster, and more efficient just by small increments each day, it adds up. It's going to make the whole business more efficient, and it gets them involved. So I think that's the key.
Yeah, let me give you a good example. Right, I've seen companies ask their employees, "Can you record your downtime? Tell me when you had downtime, how long it was, and why you were down." So these people will spend months recording this on paper. Maybe somebody keys it in somewhere, but nobody ever acts on it. So how long do you think it would be before this operator says, "Well, I'm not going to write anything down anymore because nobody does anything with this"? So unless you act on the information that you're collecting, it's very frustrating and almost counterproductive, in my opinion. You're better off not to ask them to record their downtime manually.
Yeah, no, I get that. That makes a good sense. Well, thanks very much for coming and joining us today, and sharing your experience in this area. Is there any way that people can get in contact with yourself and the business to be able to sample the product and have a greater conversation with you?
Yes, so you can reach us at info@10and6.com, or on Twitter, we're at 10and6 Global. Please reach out, and what we do is we have a money-back guarantee. That's how confident we are with our 10 and 6 10% productivity improvement in 6 months. So we welcome companies that come and challenge us on that, ask for a trial area, a demo, or a pilot system. And if we can't deliver what we say we're going to deliver, then you get your money back. And so it's very simple.
Yeah, can't say fairer than that. So that's a pretty good offer. And with the goal of 10% more efficient production, that's valuing over and above a cost of taking the service on.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, we don't even ask you to give a reason why you don't want to move forward with our product. So it's not even that if, let's say, you achieved 11% productivity improvement, but you still didn't like the software for some reason, you can still get your money back. There's just no strings attached to that.
Well, that's very generous of you, and shows the quality of the product that you're putting your name and the statement behind. So, well, thanks very much for joining us, and we'll look forward to catch up again, and wish you ongoing success for the rest of the year.
Yes, and thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and hopefully we'll be in touch. Thanks.
Indeed. Take care. Thanks. Thanks for joining us today on the Cliff Notes podcast. If you'd like to follow up with me or the guest, the details will be in the show notes, or you can look up directly on the website, cliffnotespodcast.com, or on Twitter @cliffnotespod. And we always welcome feedback and 5-star reviews on any of your channels where you catch up with the podcast. So thank you, and I look forward to joining again next time.